In this Golf Smart Insight, we're going to take a look at the member question, keeping the left arm straight throughout the whole swing. So I know that it's a commonly discussed swing thought of trying to keep that left arm straight in the entire swing. In this video, I'm going to give you some of the numbers of what 3D actually shows and talk to you about when I think it's helpful to try to keep it straight and when it might be problematic to try to keep it straight. So the tour average, or if you look at any of these arm bend graphs, you'll see that nobody keeps it perfectly straight. The closest that I have bends the arm about 10 degrees during the backswing, and then it straightens a bit in transition and then bends a little bit, but stays within kind of like a 10-degree window. The tour average is, compared to where they are at setup, they're going to be bent, let's say 5 to 8 degrees more at impact, but the arm's going to bend, that left arm, that lead arm is going to bend about 30 degrees up towards the top of the swing. Now, it doesn't often look that way because there's also going to be some rotation. So when you get towards the top of the swing, the arm is bent, but there's been some shoulder rotation, so now you're looking more kind of in the plane of the bend, so it looks fairly straight, as opposed to if it stayed perfectly in plane with the camera, kind of like this, instead of rotating, then you would be able to see more of the bend. But because there's some rotation, you won't see nearly as much of the bend. But it does tend to soften as it gets towards the top of the swing. So when are the times, if we know that it doesn't stay perfectly straight, when are the key times to try to actually keep it straight? The 2 or 3 major times that I think are helpful for training, trying to keep that left arm straight, would be during takeaway, because most tour golfers actually increase the straightness of their arms during takeaway. So just between that phase there, that helps them power it more with the core and make more of kind of a one-piece move. But then as you go to set, I actually think trying to keep that right arm to have a little bit width is going to be more helpful to trying to keep the left arm straight. What tends to happen when golfers try to keep the left arm straight up towards the top of the swing is they tend to get a little bit more of this look where they bend that right arm and bring it around, and the left arm just kind of comes very close across their chest, as opposed to having some of that rotation and keeping the hands a little bit more out in front. I think trying to keep that right arm straight helps create better width at the top rather than the left arm. The time where I see a huge problem with trying to keep the left arm straight is in transition. So many golfers that try to keep that left arm straight through transition will actually end up doing more of a cast pattern, and they'll tend to kind of steepen the arms a little bit more like that. That's a very effective lat or shoulder pull, which creates some speed in the handle, but it's more of a vertical motion. Where what I tend to like to see is in transition, if you're going to use more of your lower body against the ground, you're going to use more of your core to pull through your arms, that's going to tend to cause a little bit more of this lag, and you're going to see those shoulders and the elbows actually narrow a bit or bend. But then one of the last places where it's really helpful to try to keep the arm straight is not at impact, but through pass follow through. So if you take a look at many tour golfers, especially when they're hitting drivers, you'll tend to see that the arms stay straight all the way until the club is well past here. I see amateurs frequently, when they're trying to keep the arm straight, they just worry about it trying to stay straight through there, and then it bends very quickly, kind of like this. Well, when you start to add speed to that, it'll start moving earlier and earlier or closer and closer to impact. So if you're trying to keep that arm straight through impact, which we know that it's not actually going to be straight. I already told you it's going to be a little bit more bent, but the key is that it's actually straightening. And in order to get it to straighten long enough, it's helpful to do little shots where you train it staying straight as you kind of turn that corner there. If you can keep it or get it to stay straight during that phase there, then you're going to have a good wide look at impact. You're going to avoid that look of the chicken wing. So quick recap, the places where it's helpful are in takeaway, possibly at the top of the swing, definitely not during transition, and then again, helpful during the release and even past the release for trying to keep that arm straight. But if you're trying to keep that arm straight the entire swing, I think it's probably going to do more harm than good, especially during transition. If you have any questions about what's going on in the takeaway or what you should be doing during the transition, I'll link a playlist that goes over some of the key movements during transition. So some of the key concepts and some of the key movements that you want to try to do during transition. So you can click on the link, head over to golfsmartacademy.com, sign up for a free membership, and learn about how 3D can be integrated into blending this feeling of athleticism as well as having a background in science. If you like the way we break it down, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, check out any of our swing analysis or any of these insights where we answer member questions about how to make the golf swing simpler, but using science.